following campaign is so rage-baiting, so annoying, that it was made with the sole purpose of tormenting the players of the utter abomination that created it. This campaign took me two and a half hours. And how I will lay dormant until I get my chance to lure my friends into this campaign. And, wait, oh no, oh no. Oh god, I've been reading out of my DND DM logbook. No, roll explanation. Okay, okay. Here's the idea. This campaign is called Everything is a Mimic. It is a one-shot, and, well, I already explained why I made it, of course. So, here's how it works. Okay. Excuse me for a moment. The party awakens in an ancient tavern on the floor. And as they do, the bartender approaches them. So, you have awoken. Well, you are in a large amount of debt. However, I could use your help. There is a dungeon next to the town. It's the cave that looks like a moor. And if you can retrieve the crystal soul of said dungeon, then I will relieve you of your debt and grant you a mystical weapon, something far beyond even my understanding. So then, as a bartender rallies the party, you may have to pick some of them up and drags them to the dungeon's mouth. A truly foul and disgusting thing. Truly beyond measure. So this is a sort of demo map of the first floor. I'm embarrassed just looking at it. But ultimately I'm just going to explain what's going to happen next, so if you'll excuse me. So when the and back into character. As the party ventures into the dungeon, the mouth begins to close behind them, and as they sit there, wandering through the endless darkness that is the dungeon, they see it. A singular golden dragon, a creature beyond majesty, but something's not right. And so the party dares to begin the attack. Every single slash upon the beast's flesh seems as if it's hitting something else, something unnatural, something horrifying beyond and beyond the knowledge of the players. And finally, with an earth-shattering roar, the beast, the monster, the creature that has tormented them, finally dies. And as the party finally decides to relax, they hear a rumbling. This is no ordinary rumbling. This is the rumbling of something unholy. And as if by magic, all of the darkness surrounding the dungeon suddenly fades away, as it is revealed that it was nothing but magic. Now that the party can see clearly, they notice that they're in a normal cave. As they look back, they notice that during the closing, they hadn't noticed the one thing that seemed most curious of all. The mouth of the dungeon, if you will, is covered in stalactites and stalagmites. And I just butchered the pronunciation on that. Okay, back into character now. The party starts to realize and things off, and of course, they decide that maybe we should leave. Unfortunately, some things don't take kindly to that. And so the beast does attempt to break out. As the party stares in horror, the dragon's horde that starts to shift, rumble, and each singular tiny coin bursts from it. In a rage, they all start to leap. They all start to scream, giggle, and just stare at the entire party. Until finally, without hesitation, there's a sudden roar from all of them, deafening the entire party and leaving them open to a perfect attack. And so the pile of gold attacks. But this is no ordinary battle. For as the attack begins, the monsters realise something's off. Something is shaking below them. Something is awake. And with that, the ground beneath you falls into, and everybody is plunged into darkness, thus concluding the first floor. The second floor of the dungeon is nothing more than a vast maze. Every step is treacherous, and as the party goes from their starting point here, they may go north to reach on the right a dead end. But something seems wrong here. The fleshy walls of the maze that starts to, well, doesn't seem white. It feels more like it's been weakened by something. Fearful, the party decides to leave and keep going, eventually heading north once more, which leads them down a very narrow passage. I come to realise over time that they can quickly get through this passage. They're going to have to slowly crawl. And so they are attacked by a cauldron mimic, which has absolutely nothing. With the cauldron mimic slain, the party keeps venturing. In all theory, they could have just, gotten through the narrow passageway, because there's no way a cauldron is going to fit through that, but still. So the party continues down their trip until eventually they stumble upon another large flesh room. This one is just filled with chests. And when they finally wonder, when they start to wonder if they're all mimics, they're going to try and check. And the second somebody gets too close to the mimic, all of them awaken. All four mimics awaken and attack. Desperate to escape, they may run to a wall, only to discover that, of course, the wall seems weaker than the other walls, but still, it's still a wall. What do you expect? So, after narrowly escaping or killing all the mimics, they venture further. They find this an ominous room. There isn't much here. There's just a birthday cake, which is a mimic, table, mimic, chair, mimic, and this really comfortable armchair. So, noticing that it can't possibly be a mimic because it didn't spring to life like everything else when people got too close, somebody sits on it. And, you guessed it, it's a mimic. So they keep venturing, and they reach a door, which is, of course, a mimic. But this isn't any old mimic. No, this is what we call a door portal mimic. Yeah, go through that door when you're into, and it's essentially like walking into a bag of devouring. So they're gonna have to kill that. And with that, they find a mighty crystal. And as somebody goes to grab it, believing it to be a crystal soul, it immediately breaks its form and becomes a mimic. So after terrifyingly fleeing, they go down the final passageway, which is a sign that says, "The walls are made of flesh here." But not every wall is made of the same cartilage. But the party realizes something strange. Nobody read out that message, it was just as if the sign itself, the sign's a mimic. So they notice a wall that is weaker than the others, but no, they want to see the other wall first. So they go back to the chest room, break down the wall, and find another mimic. But upon this mimic's death, you get to find one of the most desirable items in the entire area. Ladies and gentlemen, after getting through all these mimics, you gain a pair of mimic boots. Armor class 12 plus dexterity bonus. The mimic boots grant spider climb to the wearer. Now that they have spider climb, they can just sort of walk on the walls. Yeah, this is pretty cool. So they break down this door and find a bunker. Wait, what the... And so the party ventures down into the bunker below. Down in the bunker, the party finds a town completely inhabited by cats. What did you expect? This is the secret floor. Seriously, what did you expect? So, upon entering the cat town, the party will notice 5 things. The first, a shop to buy extra gear and supplies. The second, an inn and tavern, delightfully called the Fluffy Snake. Yeah, the shop is actually referred to as the Scaled Cat. I don't know what I was thinking here. So, now the party gets to go down and investigate quite a few little cat houses. Once again, what did you expect? I am an Elder Scrolls player making a D&D campaign. I'm going to include the Khajiit. Now, the final building they'll see is a temple to Tiger, an animal lord cat that was mighty, glorious, and definitely not an actual cat that I knew that died and is now being immortalized in a D&D campaign. And now the reason you're down here. Within this floor, I have made possibly one of the most useful homebrew D&D items ever conceived. But in order to get it, you must fight the animal lord, Mog. I honestly wish I made Mog a minute. It would have just been funnier. But now, upon beating Morg, she explains that this whole place is essentially built to keep out the mimics. And then she just goes into one of the walls, attacks it, and then it is revealed. These walls are not made of meat, like the other ones, the maze of darkness. And with that, Morg bestows upon you the Mimic Helmet. 12 AC plus Wisdom. This is the most useful thing I have made in this entire campaign. It allows the wearer to see if an object is a mimic instantly. There is no check required or anything, it's just great. And all you have to do is trust me. And so going up to the bunker ladder and going back to the room, we now return to the maze. The maze may be devoid of all life, but that doesn't mean that it's safe. So the party must traverse to the final secret wall, break it down, and find a ladder. And now they enter the dungeon. Floor 3 is without a shadow of a doubt the worst idea I have ever had, but the best idea. This is pure evil, and it all revolves around this tent right here. So the party ventures through the fleshy cave and finds 3 skeletons, which immediately start to contort, convulse, and rise, revealing that they are 3 mimics possessing old bodies. Because, I don't know. After defeating the 3 mimics, one is discovered to drop something. Everyone realizes something. There's something off about one of them. It's not that it's not that the corpse is still rotting. No, as the flesh starts, this mimic in particular had a large amount of flesh covering its chest, and now that it's dead, it's rotting away, revealing the mimic chest plate. So basically, plus Constitution. This is just able to use this mimic armor's piece's ability is to use a young black dragon's acid breath attack. Insert vomit joke here. Okay, now that we've gone that, I'll spend some time to explain why this is the worst flaw. Now, it's at this point that your party will have probably heard about something that I decided to give the campaign because I am a horrible person. Ladies and gentlemen, I hereby give you fear, hunger, and fatigue. Why am I like this? Why? So the fear bit is just for the fear and hunger weapons, but hunger and fatigue are no joke. So the reason you're going to that cat shop in the cat place in the first place is because you're going to need food. Otherwise you're going to die. Your only other objective is to deliciously dungeon the mimics. Or the walls. Don't eat the walls. Don't eat the walls. Just don't. And due to the fatigue, your party is going to need to sleep. Those of you who want to sleep in the tent, I'm so sorry in advance. Yep, tent, mimic. Of course it's a mimic. Everything here is a mimic. As for everyone who will pull away their gear, possibly in the tent, and decided to rest, you wake up to the sound of munching. You look down, and whatever you have been sleeping in, for a sleeping bag under a blanket, it's been replaced with a mimic. You go, you look at your gear, it's all mimics. Even your money is mimics. So after finding your gear, which for some unknown reason is at the base of the ladder, nobody knows why, you find the most important item ever. Should you choose not to rest, you will find this either way, but you find a sort of gramophone and a wax cylinder. What you are beholding is the waxophone, an incredibly useful device. You're going to need this. You are guaranteed to require this. Those who say you don't need it, I'm so sorry in advance. So, you decide to play the wax cylinder, and then you realise this is a message. The message itself is quite simple, and this is the message. Hello, this is Joe. Now, this is a log that I made using one of our wax cylinders. This is my first of 2 logs, because the other cylinders were used to hold the passwords and to be used as candles. I'm part of a research team sent into this dungeon to observe and hopefully awaken the crystal soul. But for some reason, well, when they sent us down here, there was something off. Everything on the floor below us is alive. It's a mimic. Now, I'm being sent down there. If anyone finds this, I'm just going to say this. If I don't make it, the password to the entrance to the next floor is Soul Gem. Okay, wait, no, please. Guys, you don't need to. Right, no, please, no, not into the cave, not into the cave. First crack. And so the red wall opens and stairs are revealed, and I have lost my cursor. Now I'm going to show you this because this is all the files you will have to view, and it's blurry enough so that not even I can make it out. This is the worst flaw, nay, thing that I have ever conceived in all my time playing D&D. The very fact that I made this proves that I am a truly rancid person. I do not know how else to explain this, but I don't want to. This is the penultimate floor, and when you enter this level of the meat cave, you notice that the ground is covered in a strange slime that makes it hard to walk. It's like digestive fluid mixed with that slime, that's just a really thick slime, like mucus. Absolutely disgusting. So you may be wondering what these orange symbols are. Well, once the party starts wandering and they start to go through the hallway, the X is activated. This is 100 feet of a gauntlet. Okay, how do I explain this? Upon activating the X trap, a torch mimic falls from the wall and creates a wall of fire. Now, this is going to approach the players at an imposing pace. Each player must roll a d6 to determine how quickly they're going to be moving across the sludge maze. Or rather, the sludge hallway. I call it a maze because this is going to get very confusing. And the wall of fire itself, that moves 1d4 faster than the slowest person. I can't wait to watch somebody die to the fire trap and then not realise why anyone would make this. Okay, square trap. The square trap is what we call a giant scythe. A giant scythe mimic, which drops from the ceiling and attempts to slash whoever triggered the trap. But if less slash, more tries to bite your head off. Unfortunately, this does send it flying towards the torch mimic, which is in hot pursuit. So now, you're now being chased by a wall of fire, a torch mimic, and a giant scythe. Why? Why am I like this? Okay, time for the triangle trap. Okay, how do I say this? So, remember when I said that the whole place was made of meat? Upon triggering the triangle trap, a giant hand of meat bursts through the wall, grabs whoever triggered it, and just throws them into the fire. The only way to evade this trap is to see it coming. If you don't see it coming, there's no save that can actually save you from getting thrown into the fire. Yeah, this is why I'm not a good... This is proof that I'm not a good dungeon maker. And now for the Pentagon trap. This is a very badly drawn pentagon. Okay, how do I say this? Who here has watched Looney Tunes? Who here knows about Wile E. Coyote? Okay, this is just an anvil trap, actually. So that giant hand isn't going to give chase, but the following will. A giant anvil mimic just drops from the ceiling with the sole purpose of giving whoever it lands on, or whoever triggered the trap, a 15 strength check. If you don't, how do I explain this in a way that's really easy to understand? Okay, so if you unfortunately perish due to if you fail the strength check, how do I say this in a way that makes sense? Have you ever seen a vase fall from a building? That's what you're going to look like if you fail. Okay, time for the circle trap, which is just going to be one of the most disturbing. So now that you're being chased by an anvil, a scythe, a hand is trying to grab you, a torch, and a wall of fire, time for that final trap. Now you may be wondering, what is it? It's a pit. It just opens up a massive trapdoor, revealing a pit filled with mimics. You better hope you can make the DC 12 athletics check. You better hope you can make that. Otherwise, you are just going to get absolutely mauled by the monsters. So now that everything has fallen into that trapdoor, but the fire is still giving up pursuit, you're going to have to jump down this massive pit to the penultimate room. And now we fall. Here we are, the final floor. As the party plummets, it plummets all the way down into this healing spring. As for everybody who may have died due to the traps, their bodies just come falling down a chute into the water, reviving them completely. If you die on any other floor than the Gauntlet one, you do not get to be revived, you are just dead. And so the party prepares for their final challenge. They pick up a sword, a wax cylinder, so I still used to Skyrim. And this is it. This is what the final cylinder is. This is not a dungeon! It's a mimic! Beyond this false wall is the crystal soul. It may seem cool, but if you play the final cylinder, then it will shrink. To be firm, sir. Do not play the cylinder. That's the entrance command. Which it probably did, because for some reason, anyone who gets to the weird flesh maze floor, yeah, that apparently makes the mouth shut either way, so... Oh, right, and the floor collapses to get you there normally, so yeah, you're trapped. Okay, so... You're gonna have to use it if you're down here. Unless you use the elevator, which can only be accessed by using the final cylinder, but still, do not use it. Now, we've made it so that there is a wall that you will never be able to break, unless somebody says the password, which is healing strength. But I won't say it all, and all I will do is sit in my relaxing healing strength, and oh god, no! And so, you enter the final room. Before the party sits a large console. A strange circle. And you get to behold the crystal soul in all its glory. Truly majestic. Unfortunately, you don't get nice things. And so a cockatrice appears from behind the crystal soul. I am losing my ability to speak. This is it. This is the penultimate boss. A very easy to kill cockatrice. Upon killing the giant chicken with a snake tail, it coughs up a note which is trapped in a wax cylinder. Here is what the note reads. Insert gramophone into repository and place cylinder for making exit. This will wax as an emergency exit button. This note will only be found if Joe's familiar has been vanquished. Should you use the cylinder, well, we don't talk about what happens when we use the cylinder. Not after the incident. And so, naturally, you use the cylinder. Now this, being the final floor, of course leads to horrors beyond even my comprehension. Yep, the final floor is just this. So, you think you've won, you use the grammar. You think you've finally escaped this horrible dungeon. And finally, after all this time, you rise from the dungeon, free as a bird. But in D&D, especially the campaigns that I won, there is no such thing as true freedom. There was a reason that they always said, awaken the crystal soul. There was a reason that they said the dungeon was a mimic and that you shouldn't awaken the crystal soul. The dungeon rises for one final fight. Now, what I'm drawing right now isn't the dungeon, it's just a little mimic. Why? Because I can. No, the real final boss looks exactly like the dungeon layout. What you see before you as you ascend the elevator, or the lift, as we say in England, is this colossal abomination of hubris, greed, and suffering. The most powerful mimic known to this world is here, and it bears but one name, the Leviathan. The Leviathan mimic is just pure pain. From class of 15 and HP 500, and with an initiative of +3, speed 10 feet, same skills, languages, senses, and immunities, and other stats as a normal mimic, and its powers include adhesive. Every attack grapples an enemy. DC 12, escape condition. These checks have disadvantages while this happens. All attacks have a 5 bonus if the target is disadvantaged. Bite is a 1d20 piercing +5 and acid +2 damage. The slash attack is where it just pulls out that giant hand from before and tries to slam you. This is 1d20 plus 10 bludgeoning. Finally, acid blast. 1d20 plus 15 projectile attack leaves a large puddle of acid for 5 turns. If you touch the puddle, you take 2 damage per turn you're standing on there. That puddle can be as big as the DM says it is. You better hope that some merciful DM you got that. And this, thankfully, concludes the bosses. And with this victory, you get the one thing that you have been searching for. Unfortunately, I also forgot to mention something earlier. So, let me just explain. So, the actual mimic armor has a full set. What I forgot to mention was the secret bit. Where if you loot the body, where if you loot the body of our good friend the cockatrice, you can find that its hands aren't just feathers, but aren't just rings, but are disguises for something much more powerful. The mimic gauntlets. I don't know how to explain this other than this is my least favourite warden. The mimic gauntlets are what can be best described as AC 12 plus intelligence roll. It allows the wearer to guide a 50-foot tongue that can do anything that normal hands can do, so it's better than mage hand by default. Also can impale enemies 1d12 piercing damage. Now, you may be wondering, why would we do all of this? We don't even know what we're getting. We just know that we're getting a mystical weapon. Is there even a mystical weapon? Was that all a lie? No, it wasn't a lie. There is actually a mystical weapon. Ladies and gentlemen, the reason you got the soul gem is yet to come, and it shall be finished when I finish this little mimic drawing. Then you get to know. This is a break to allow you to consider adding this to your campaigns if you want. Now that isn't wood enough. Well, just gotta add a few finer details, like the basic shape of the wood. There's a really good chest that the mimic is inhabiting here. You may notice what I'm actually referencing here, but if you know, you know. So I'm almost done, just gotta draw the little eyes, the pupils. Okay, here is the mimic drawing. If you can see the eye reference, congratulations. Anyway, back to what we have been doing this whole time. So let's return to the tavern keeper, also bartender, disguise a lot of things. They stand before you, and once they lay their hands on the crystal soul of the dungeon, a smile creeps across their face. And the bartender decides to tell the party their backstory. Finally, the Leviathan mimic has been slain. I was not always a lonely bartender, actually. In fact, this will explain why I did want it dead. See, I came from a long line of mimic knights. We were glorious and respected. Until my family home rebelled because we hadn't been feeding it enough. It would grow and grow thanks to the fact that it continuously ate our guests without us knowing, replacing them with mimics. So, of course, I had to flee. And the only thing that I could bring was this saber. Now, this is the kind of saber that we would have gotten a mimic to possess. But it wasn't crafted correctly. Instead of a mimic inhabiting it, it requires a soul crystal. Professor, please don't shoot me. Or rather, kill me. Professor, don't come after me, please. Okay. Wait a minute. I'm not going to monetize for this. I think I'm safe. Okay. So ultimately, well, In return for the closure you have given me, I hereby clear your debt and bestow the mimic sabre upon you. I have imbued this with the crystal soul of the Leviathan. This sabre is one of the greatest things that I've created, and from the bottom of my mimic heart, I thank you. This sabre does 1d12 slashing damage, combined with your charisma modifier. Now, the reason you're using your charisma is because, of course, you know, mimics aren't the nicest occasionally. This mimic in particular, over time, well, it gained the ability to speak. I suppose after all that time it spent sleeping off the grand meal of my entire family, it must have, well, forgotten. In other words, if you're able to hit an attack with it, then it will cast vicious mockery on everybody but you, everyone within every single person within about a 50-foot radius will have vicious mockery cast on them as long as they're not behind anything. However, if you do miss an attack, it's going to cast vicious mockery on you, the owner. This is why we have the charisma mod. This thing's just a monster to deal with. Now that this is over, I will just tell you this. You really think this is just a town? This is naught but a mimic. The town is a mimic. Remember when I said that that the bartender's family was killed by mimics? Well, I am a mimic. I've been pretending to be this bartender for years and years. See that? See the bar right there? Mimic. Bottles, mimic. Everything you see is a mimic. I'm a mimic. That patron's a mimic. That one cat sitting on the windowsill is a mimic. Everything here is a mimic. That door is a mimic. The whole room is a mimic. The multiverse is a mimic. Everything in this multiverse, nay, plane of existence is naught but a mimic. Every single realm, mimic. Every tree that you have seen, mimic. And once you finally leave this island, then and only then will you be free of the mimicry. Now, you may be wondering, wait, how did you get onto this island? Good, you don't remember. The following will haunt you forever. You climbed into a mimic trying to hide. That's what you did. You thought you were safe, didn't you? Now, once you go into some mimic, you found yourself on the floor of my tavern. You didn't get unnecessarily drunk. No, you stumbled into the mimic land. This isn't even an island. It's a literal space, and it's its own plane of reality. And you know how you get out? You really want to know how to get out? Climb back through the mimic. Climb back through the mimic with 5 eyes. One's red as the bloodshed that has been caused through trying to get out of this place. Green is the poison that you have ingested by entering the very place. After all, you know you had to deal with hunger. Do you really think that your food wasn't a mimic? You still have that poison within you and you'll never get it out. Blue for the vast sea that stops us from finding the material plane. Yellow for the golden dragon which served as the guard protecting the Leviathan. And pink is for the bonds that the old leaders had with their own mimics. And now you may leave. goodbye forever. You will never forget what you've seen here, ever.